Okay, so today's video is going to be page 28 in your notes. We have three different parts we're going to go through. We're going to talk about point slope form. We're going to talk about tables starting with a positive number, and then we're going to talk about tables starting with a negative number. Now the first thing that you need to know is point slope form is a linear equation that does not start at time 0. Okay? So the super mathy way to write this is y equals m parentheses x minus x1. Sorry, this is supposed to be x1 plus y1. But in real people words down here, we have y equals slope, that's what this m represents, times x, minus the table's first x, which is this x1, plus the table's first y. Now you see here in purple, I say to do the opposite sign on the inside next to the x, and then the y's, we can do the same sign. Now, one way to think about this is think about your exes, right? Your very first ex-girlfriend or boyfriend. Probably broke up with them because they were some form of lying. They were doing some form of lying to you. So we want to do the opposite of the first X, right? That's a good way to remember it. But the Y's, they're cool. We can do what they say. So looking at this first example here, we're kicking it back to module 1. We have 1 and 4, 2, 7, 3, 10, 4, 13, and now we're going to expand this where we start with the 4, then we did 4 plus 3, then we have 4 plus 3 plus 3, then we have 4 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. Now, this table is to help you see why we do point slope form in the way that we do point slope form. So this one represents the first x. This 2 represents this 2 in the x column. This 3 represents the 3 in the x column. This 4 represents the 4 in the x column. Now over here you see it's already filled out. It says the number of plus 3's in the expanded. Well, here we have 0 plus 3's. Here we have 1 plus 3. Here we have 2 plus 3's. And lastly, we have 3 plus 3's. So our goal is to figure out what math can we do with 1 in this box so that it equals the 0. Well, we can do 1 minus 1, and that gives us 0. Now we have 2, some type of math we can do so that it equals 1. Well, again, we can do minus 1. And minus 1 works for 3. 3 minus 1 does equal 2. That works for 4. 4 minus 1 does give us 3. So every x we encounter, we need to subtract 1. Now, in this equation here, right, we need to notice that our slope is our common difference, and our common difference in this case is 3. So when we write the equation, we have 3 parentheses x minus 1. And then there's one other thing we need. Let's look at my notes here. We need the table's first y, and we do the same sign. So the table's first y is a positive 4, so we must also write that as a plus 4. Okay, and again, our x was a 1, and our first x is always a liar, so we do the opposite sign, and that's where we get this negative 1 from. That's just a way to remind you how to do it, but the real reason is right here in this first box. What math can we do so that we get 0 from that first x? So looking at the next one here, we have 15, then 15 minus 5, then 15 minus 5 minus 5, 15 minus 5 minus 5 minus 5. Well, our slope here, aka our common difference, is minusing 5, right? To get 0 next to this 3, because again, this 3 is that first x, then we have the 4 for our second x, 5 for our third x, and then 6 was our fourth x. So what math can we do with 3 so we get 0? Because we subtracted 15 0 times. Well, we can subtract 3. And look at that. Subtracting 3 works for the next row. 4 minus 3 does give us 1. 5 minus 3 does give us 2. 6 minus 3 does give us 3. So for every x that we see here, we are going to be subtracting 3. So when we write out our equation, we're going to have negative 5 parentheses x minus 3, close the parentheses, and then we started with a positive 15, so we write plus 15. Okay, again, looking at this, we started with a positive 3 for our x. X's are liars. We do the opposite sign, and we did do that. But the real reason, again, is because we want to figure out what can we do with that 3 so that we can make a 0 for the number of times we subtracted 5. Okay, this is just a fun way to try to remember it. So looking at the next row here, it's the same one as the one above it, again, but the slope is 3 here, adding by 3. So I'm even going to write that down here first. But now we're starting with negative 1, then 0, then 1, then 2. So here's those x's here. So what math can I do with negative 1 so that we get 0? We can add by 1. Negative 1 plus 1 is 0. They cancel each other out. 0 plus 1 does give us 1. 1 plus 1 does give us 2. 2 plus 1 does give us 3. So for every x in this particular problem, we add 1. So in my equation, we have x plus 1 inside the parentheses. Our slope was a 3, and remember, your slope is always in front of your x, but this time we have to put a parentheses around our x because it's got a partner. And then our first y value is a 4, a positive 4, so we write it as positive 4. Next up, we have our last problem here. Again, we're subtracting by 5s, so our slope is going to be a negative 5, so I'm going to write that here. And then, but this time we are starting with a negative 3 and going down our table. So does our little side note table here. So what math can we do with negative 3 so that we get 0? We can add 3. And that works for negative 2 plus 3 gives us 1. Negative 1 plus 3 gives us 2. 0 plus 3 gives us 3. So for every x that we've seen, we will need to add 3. So in my equation here, we're going to have negative 5x plus 3. And then our table's y that we start with is a positive 15. So we show that. We show positive 15. And here's our point slope form equation. Okay, so that's the end of the notes today. If you can do the worksheet, that'd be great, but most importantly is to get these notes done. All right, everyone, have a good day.